gender study is a highly developed field. In Chinese studies, the long-time focus has been on literature or history. And then although art history has an early start in the 1980s, we have identified a gap in the scholarship, a single volume that encompasses multiple mediums as well as perspectives, that we present a fairly wide scope, including painting, calligraphy, ceramics, ornaments, photography, etc. That women, we find that over the ages have a very special relationship with objects as well as images. But sometimes these relationships are not articulated in the standard literature, but have become genderized. The goal of the book is to decode the genderization process. In 2016, I published a book on Kang Youwei, who was Xiao Xian's teacher and also a political reformer and leader of the Sealy School of Calligraphy. And that through the connection, I found out about Xiao Xian, who was unusual because of her gender, but also because overall there have been very few Chinese female calligraphers in history. So I started to dig into her biography, and that also came to really appreciate her calligraphy. Some people, in fact, think that her hand is even more flamboyant and even more powerful than her teachers, Kang Youwei. Now, I think that personally, there is very little distinction between so-called a feminine hand and the masculine hand in Chinese calligraphy discourse. There is no clear line between how men should write and women should write. However, in the language that we use to praise calligraphers, oftentimes we use masculinist definitions, things such as 好重 or 潇洒. And then these qualities are rarely associated with the feminine. And that through the interrogation of Xiao Xian as a calligrapher, her skillfulness, I think that she was self-consciously transgressing. That through her transgression, she was able to also distinguish herself from her peers, and that now she is hailed as one of the so-called four great masters of Nanjing, that along with three other people, but they're all men. And that shows again how unique she was in calligraphy history. Then this research is not only about a special woman artist, but how she negotiated in the larger system of calligraphy, and that hopefully will lead to our thinking of the general discourse around calligraphy. I'm generally not someone who exclusively focuses on women artists, because women artists themselves sometimes reject the label of being called a woman and then artist. But in my previous research, I have done several modern contemporary figures whose style really intrigued me, and that I think that it is generally a good thing to try to give the underrepresented and sometimes also the oppressed a voice in the scholarship, and this is what I seek to do. The marginality of society and of scholarly research in general are what drive me in my scholarly pursuits, and that in the end, I think that the marginality could shed light on the center.